Sexy little communist. Sexy little communist. Working out the praxis. Ooh, sexy little socialist. Like the bugs we eat for access. You just got a little extra meat. Call it for access. You own my heart and the means of production. Let me show you my means of reproduction.
Fetal cell sprite. Tonight's the night. Ballin' like Joseph Stalin.
Ooh, sexy little communist. Sexy little communist. Doing little praxis. Ooh, I seen you on my Instagram. You made it my Sinstagram. Sexy little socialist. You gon' make me Marxist. Big girls need their loving too. You expose the big booty industrial complex.
Big booty industrial complex exposed. Twerkers of the world unite. Damn. Twerkers of the world unite. Twerkers of the world unite.
I want to live forever.
Damn. I see you on that Instagram, girl. In them yogurt pants. Made me think. Damn.
Sexy little
Fuck you.
working out the praxis. Ooh, sexy little socialist. Like the bugs we eat for access. You just got a little call it for access. You own my heart.
Why you wanna do it when I got you bling? Girl, you just out there, just straight up got.
I just like write the whole thing. Life can be great. Life can be cool. Life doesn't mean evil. Life is just a passing. Life shouldn't be. Life should be free, and life should be.
This is not open. This is not open mic poetry night. Debate. It's not. This isn't spoken word.
AQ, the Amish question.
God. I think it's the biggest fairy tale ever told in life. It's all a bunch of bullshit, boat. whoever wrote it.
Okay.
Because if you believe in God, you believe in misogyny, murder, rape, all that good stuff. So why would you want to worship a person? Because maybe the people that people are just aimlessly murdering wanted to have a life and live a life.
So?
Maybe that's their perspective.
So they're just bags of meat. Who cares what bags of meat want?
Oh, I don't know. My opinion's changed to have kids. I guess I wouldn't want someone just randomly going to school.
Yeah, well, again, it's just missing the whole point of what I'm asking you. I'm not asking you to keep telling me your position 20 times. I want to know why your position is the case.
I hear you talking about everything that goes on in the Bible with John and David and Peter and all this. None of those names ever existed.
Okay, yeah. Is that right? Okay, everybody, that never existed. Okay. Flat Earthers aren't saying the best if they're sending people that think that John and David. Okay, here we go. Another good one. Good argument, dude. Oh, I forgot about that old introduction. Welcome, y'all. Gossiping. Mel Gibson night. I don't know why we took so long to do Mel Gibson night, but we finally did it. We finally watched 4 of the classics, 4 of the ones that I really like. Did you have fun reviewing Mel Gibson movies?
Yeah. I like him more and more.
Freedom!
The more movies I watch of his, the more I like him.
Well,
You-
Bays and Red Pill, Chad, Mel, sure.
You
right?
love Mad Max.
I love basically all Mel Gibson movies, even the one where he's talking to his hand as a beaver.
What's the one with the trash cat? The kitty that keeps jumping on a trash can.
Tango and Cash? Tequila Sunrise?
That's a Tom Cruise. Or no?
No. You're talking about the one where it's one of those it's Kurt Russell and Mel Gibson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it Tango and Cash? I get those mixed up. But anyway, welcome everybody. What? But what?
Do you think he's the basest person in Hollywood? Yeah.
Clearly. Who else would it be? Roseanne Barr?
No.
Rob Reiner? I'm joking. It's not Tango and Cash because that's Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell. It's Tequila Sunrise.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, with is it Meg Ryan? Not Meg Ryan. I mean it's Mel and Kurt. I'm right about that. But I don't remember who's the woman in that. Michelle Pfeiffer, that's right. Yeah, because they get in the hot tub and she lives on Malibu, like on the beach, and she's got a hot tub and there's a cat that screams. That's the thing you remember from the movie is a cat screaming. So it's probably not what they expected would be the most memorable thing from Tequila Sunrise, but it's a fun 80s movie. It was. Mel doesn't really have many bad movies. He I guess had a good agent and was able to choose really good movies and then made his own, and the ones he made on his own were pretty much all pretty good. Pretty awesome.
Pictures, right?
Yes, that's his company, although a lot of other people make movies for that company too. So
What about Passion? Do you like that one?
there's things I like about The Passion and there's things I don't like about The Passion because I mean, on one level it's very much a masterpiece in terms of authenticity, looking for the legitimate languages and you know, faithfulness to the scriptures in terms of dialogue and all that, but it's got that very Roman Catholic obsession element of it's in the Orthodox view, it's the focus is not on the torture of the Passion.
Mm-hmm.
The focus is on the resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
So not minimizing the sacrificial element, but medieval Roman Catholicism, I just think it typically, and Tridentine Roman Catholicism, it overemphasizes the elements of the Passion to the point where it's almost like you have to go through what Christ went through, or else you're not really Christian. That's the whole idea behind like stigmata.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not
like
the
whipping
that's
yourself and stuff like that, or
it led medieval people to be flagellants. Now you think that I'm a flagellant, but that's flatulence.
No.
I'm talking about flagellance. But shout out to the Rockfin shirt. See that?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Looks good.
Yeah, we got this from the CEO of Rockfin. That was really cool. We met him, and he was like, "Here's a T-shirt." You meet a CEO, and they hand you T-shirts. I like that. Right?
Yeah.
That's cool. What'd you do today? A CEO gave me a T-shirt. But it's one of those fully cotton shirts.
Oh, nice.
Remember?
I got a new shirt.
Did you get one?
Yeah. I got
No, I know you have you're on Rockfin.
Yeah,
Everybody
I have a
subscribe to
new shirt
Jamie
on
on Rockfin, by the way. Did you get a T-shirt?
Yes. I got one.
Okay, good. Anyway. Jel Mibson. What do you think about Jel Mibson?
Maybe my favorite. Did you know? Maybe I'll take you there when we go. So we're going to
I'll take you there.
do a live show in LA in July. And
You're gonna take me to Mel Gibson's house?
The Catholic Cathedral in Los Angeles
Ugh, I don't want to go there.
has tapestries that
Ugh. Mind control you?
Well-
Why would I want to go there?
because it has a lot of interesting sights to see there. The tapestries are Mel Gibson and Leonardo DiCaprio and other
What? At the
contemporary people that posed for artists making like 20-foot tall curtains of the saints, but they look like Leo and Mel and other people.
This sounds
never heard
horrible.
of that?
This sounds like the worst idea of all time. I'm not surprised that. Who is the Cardinal Mahoney? I forget who, but he's like notoriously like one of the worst of the Novus. Or I mean, he's got to be like total Satanist, 100%.
Their courtyard has astrological.
I knew that. Yeah, I knew that from my Tradcat days. So I was Tradcat in my 20s, right? So, who is the Goblin of L.A. for the Roman Catholics? Is it Cardinal Mahoney? Yes. So Cardinal Mahoney is notoriously one of the worst, most probably wicked of all of them.
Well, maybe Mel,
So I wouldn't go anywhere near them. Mel wouldn't go anywhere near them.
maybe he'll convert to Orthodoxy since he's so close.
He's a Tradcat.
Yeah.
So a lot of hope for the Tradcats, and we've helped a lot of Tradcats become Ortho bros.
He's on the edge of darkness. He's not in
Maybe
he's
that's
not in it.
That's a descriptor of the horrible Novus Ordo realm, the edge of darkness.
Yes.
Welcome everybody. If you would hit like and share it tonight, we're doing Mel finally.
Joe
It's okay,
Mibson.
Jel Mibson. It's okay that you're late, saxophonist corner. If you're the sexy sax man, Tim Capello, you can arrive whenever you damn well please. Right?
Yeah.
Sexy sax man comes and goes as he sees fit. I've got a couple of cool articles that will go with some of our movies tonight that I will look through. Certainly don't want Cardinal Mahoney on here. I need to go back to... Oh, man, I lost my freaking... What's our first one? We're going to do Edge of Darkness because people don't know about this movie. It's overlooked, but it's really good, I think. And it's one of those lesser-known Mel conspiracy movies. I had an article about Tonantzin that's a perfect thing from the Yucatan Times. Here it is. See?
Oh, for Apocalypto?
For Apocalypto, when we get to that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Edge of Darkness 2010. What did you think? I'd never seen it before, but you knew about it, and you'd seen it.
I saw it when it came out because I'm a movie nerd, and any conspiracy-related movie that came out, you bet I'm on that, right? I mean, this is still in a time when you could make conspiracy movies. You know, that doesn't really exist anymore. So
Conspiracy theory really shocked me, and we'll get to that because it laid out, just like Bourne movies, laid it all out there.
yes, conspiracy theory was one of my introductions. I mean, this came out when I was in high school, I think right around my junior year. I remember going to the movies and thinking, hey, this is crazy. What's going on? This opened my mind to conspiracy stuff for the first time. So Mel Gibson's conspiracy theory. So basically Mel is the reason. We could track this all the way back. How am I red pilled? Mel Gibson from 1997.
Yeah.
My senior year. That literally was Jerry from conspiracy theory.
And then when I grew up, I became that guy because I drove Uber for a long time. And I would
We were
just
laughing at that because
drive all night and talk about conspiracy theories to everybody, and they loved it.
your Uber years were basically you were Jerry.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. Bigger tips if you talk conspiracy and weird stuff.
Bigger tits?
Tips.
Oh. I was like, what?
No.
That's the Twitch girls, not
You-
conspiracy,
you would
not Uber
think
drivers.
That some people wouldn't be into it, but it was like 99% of people that I talked to in that car was loving the conspiracy.
When you talk to them one-on-one, they're almost always open to the conspiracy stuff, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how. Now I know about, Mel Gibson's past. I know about his dad, Hutton being a long time sedevacantist. I used to read his books when I was sedevacantist back in my 20s, so I knew about all that. But I wonder if in the 90s Mel Gibson was conspiracy woke. There is a clip that everybody sends around from the 90s. I think it's late 90s, early 2000s. Have you seen it? Where he's talking about Hollywood and he says Hollywood is darker, a lot darker of a place than he expected. And it's late 90s, probably around the time or right after conspiracy theory. So I would venture to think that he probably was conspiracy awake when he was playing the conspiracy theorist in the movie.
Well, yeah, he at least had to know about MK Ultra and those things.
Well, I mean, you could play a role without knowing about it.
That's true.
But
The script person would have to know.
well, don't you think it's interesting that it's another one of those examples of where people get cast relative to who they kind of are in real life? You say, and I mean, William Wallace is portrayed in the film as a Catholic. Remember?
Yeah.
Because his uncle Argyle teaches Latin. Remember?
Yeah.
He teaches something we shall have to remedy. Argyle teaches him Latin. Anyway, let's do Edge of Darkness, 2010, overlooked Mel Gibson conspiracy film. Welcome everybody. If you would hit like and share. Also, you can support the show via the Streamlabs function, which is how we do super chats. And that link is right here. Where is everybody? So we were pulling like 1,000 on live streams. I mean, 300 is not bad, but I was Friday night. I was getting 1,000 on like Saturday, Sunday night. Maybe are people partying? Is that what people do now? They party.
They're socializing outside the internet.
No, they need to be watching movies and watching this. That's what else is there to do?
Okay. Well, watch Edge of Darkness because it was good.
All right, let's get into it.
Starts with dead bodies floating up and conspiracy theories.
Right, and we see these dead bodies floating. We don't know why they're there, what's going on, and Mel plays the hard-boiled cop.
So he picks up his daughter from the airport, and she's like barfing everywhere. But they don't really address that. We find out
Yep.
she's an MIT graduate.
Right, she is some sort of high-level tech something from MIT. She's working with some big energy corporation. This is interesting because I was reading about energy stuff today. I was on a geopolitics Twitter chat with Patrick and a bunch of really sort of well-spoken, prominent academics a couple days ago. And the guy, Freddie Ponton, went into this long, in-depth explanation, which is one of the best I'd heard, about the Nord Stream pipeline and the energy wars behind Ukraine. And it's really good. So if you haven't heard that, go watch that. It's on my Spreaker feed, on my podcast feed, on my Rockfin. And it made me think about this because this is about corruption in the energy market, in the energy world. And you don't really know that at the beginning of this movie, but that's where it goes.
And this is a Fast and Cap movie.
Fast and retarded.
Fast and retarded caps.
By the way, this book has a lot on the first 100 pages, 50, 60 pages.
Yes.
Is about the energy corruption market.
So Mel is a hard-boiled Bastin Cap. He has PTSD. He's Catholic. Oh, Signs is a good one too. You did a whole
Yeah, we've done signs a few times.
chapter about signs in your book.
Yes.
But
Signs everywhere. Signs.
he's before the night is over, I want to hear that one song from Mad Max from you.
Mad Max.
The Tina Turner song.
We don't need another hero. We don't need to find the way home. All we want is what's beyond the Thunderdome.
Yes. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So
Master Blossom runs Barter. Who runs Barter Town? Master Blossom runs Barter Town. Embargo off.
you're gonna,
If I ever get to meet Mel Gibson, it's just going to be me spitting out lines from Mel Gibson movies. And he'll just, I don't know.
you're funny. You kind of have like a Robin Williams button sometimes where you just like go off on.
Well, hopefully it's better quality than
Yeah.
Robin Williams because his stuff is
It's
always...
less manic for sure.
And it's annoying, too. He's
Yeah.
just always making dumb, like, penis jokes and I don't know.
Okay, so his daughter gets killed. He finds out she's radioactive. How did she get radioactive?
Radioactive.
Yep.
Every word becomes a terrible song.
I want you to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Robin Williams button pushed.
He has to investigate her job and like, why is my daughter shot in the chest and radioactive?
Right, and we don't know why she got sick drinking the milk,
Yes.
but we're going to find out why.
And it's something about Northmore defense contracts. So there's like this MIT Northmore.
No, well, it's the big energy company that
Yeah.
that also builds nukes and does, right, nuclear energy.
They have to develop a safe and clean energy source, babe. Because we haven't had any of those since the beginning of time.
Okay,
No.
let's do it. Let's start right now.
But
Turn the live stream
there's a
off. We got energy.
conspiracy.
We got algorithms to draw on whiteboards.
There's a conspiracy because they're nuclear stockpile maintenance program. So they're taking the raw materials
Right.
and they're selling it to other people. Is that what's going on?
No, they're making dirty bombs for the terrorists. Right, to use the terminology
Yes,
of
they're
W.
making bombs that
terrorists.
look like they were made by terrorists.
Right, but
Okay.
yeah, so fake flags,
Yeah.
and it's a giant corp,
Yes.
mega corp, making fake flag, dirty bomb weapons.
Right.
Right.
And the daughter worked there on the research floor.
Right. And she saw the corruption.
Right.
And so even though she wasn't a radical environmentalist, she realized that she would have to work with this group of radical eco creeps that had a plan to expose the energy company.
Right.
So she infiltrated with these eco dorks to get the information and to expose, right, what she saw was going on there.
Nobody does crazy eyes as well as Mel Gibson, and nobody does pain faces. Like, he's the king of exuding pain and just like...
Well, somebody said in the chat that he also seems to have a kind of a Robin Williams style spurg out attitude.
True. Well,
And,
he was very spurgy in conspiracy theory.
Yes, when he is rolling down in the wheelchair, we were rolling.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yep. So we find out he's got a DARPA file.
DARPA has a file on everybody because there's a guy that we think is a deep state. Well, he's a deep state figure that shows up to feel out what Mel's up to. And originally he's tasked with getting rid of Mel. He's supposed to kill him. Mm-hmm. But he ends up having a heart because he's on his deathbed. Remember? Mm-hmm. He has terminal cancer, this deep state figure that shows up. And decides to go ahead and end up helping out Mel Gibson. He keeps leaking him information, but he's playing both sides because he doesn't really know himself where he's going to side with the corporation and the CEO of the energy company or with Mel Gibson, who's trying to find out, get justice for his daughter.
Part of the plot of this is the girl that figures out the conspiracy has nowhere to go, so she can't get the word out to anybody because she tries to go to her higher ups and they're all in on it, and then up to a senator and he's corrupt.
The senator's corrupt and the eco goons are idiots, so that, yeah, she doesn't know what to do.
And the Boston cops are corrupt.
Yes.
In the end.
Because the corporation has bought off Mel's cop buddies.
So it's Mel against the world, avenging his daughter.
Mad Max.
Yeah.
Mad Mel.
Mad Mel.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Beaver was good, by the way. So people were like, Jamie had never heard of Beaver. I was like, Beaver's great.
They're still talking about sweet cream.
They will always talk about sweet cream.
That's
In
hilarious.
fact, there were 2 or 3 sweet cream hairdos in Braveheart.
Yes, berries and cream.
It's not even sweet cream. It's berries and cream, but now it's just called sweet cream.
That's what
You've
cracked
renamed
me up
it.
because I couldn't remember what. Anyways, so the
Yes, St. George is recognized in Orthodoxy. Yes.
the villain has a picture with Nancy Pelosi. That was funny.
Well, there's W, Nancy Pelosi, and like every
So,
goon.
Yeah.
Which tells us he's the bad guy, right?
Right.
No, he's the bad guy.
So then they want to start blaming him.
No. So he's not a hitman that's terminally ill. He's a deep state figure who's tasked. Well, he's a fixer from DARPA, so he's both. And nobody knows that he's terminally ill until he goes to the doctor and finds out that he is. And when he finds out that he's terminally ill, that's the turning point for him to not kill Mel.
Yeah.
Basically. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, in this one, like Braveheart, he goes on a killing spree to like vindicate and get his vengeance.
Right. So essentially nothing is going to work except Mel going full Mad Max.
Right.
Right. Mel goes Max.
And they were poisoning his milk.
Yes. So we don't know why Mel's puking, and then it turns out they were actually putting like radioactive milk juices in the milk. I don't know. Right. Mm-hmm. From a dang radioactive cow milking it from a cow with 15 udders. Radioactive. Radioactive. No.
The cow gives the squeak cream.
Yeah. If you drink that, will you grow an extra finger?
No.
Third eye?
No.
Will you grow
You'll grow
Prince
your
Valiant,
hair
Prince Valiant
into-
haircut?
Yes.
Okay.
Also in this, there's like a deep throat, a British guy who's playing all sides. Remember that guy, Jedberg? I mean.
That's the DARPA guy I was just
Yeah.
talking about.
So he is like,
The fixer.
yeah.
And then he decides that because he's terminally ill and because the government, the CO people are goons, he sides with Mel.
And he decides that the country deserves better than these senators and these corporations.
deserve better.
Yeah.
They deserve
Yeah.
better. What have you learned? I've learned they deserve better.
Yep, exactly. All right.
I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun. A nice kind of a return to the conspiracy world from the time of conspiracy theory. Let's do that next.
Okay.
No.
Oh, conspiracy
yeah,
theory
let's do
next?
conspiracy
Okay.
because we're on the theme. So we come to my initiation into the world of conspiracy theories. Why am I here annoying everyone and doing this? You can all blame Mel Gibson. You can blame Mel Gibson and Richard Donner for making Conspiracy Theory in 1997, my senior year of high school. So there we go.
You remember that show Cash Cab?
No.
It was like just a little reality show where they get into a cab and they ask you quiz questions and you
Okay.
win money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can like win prizes
Okay.
in
Gotcha.
your Cash Cab.
Right.
But this is
Was
conspiracy
this
cab.
90s?
No,
When was Cash Cab?
just like 2010s probably.
Okay.
But Mel has conspiracy cab, and that was literally me when I was doing Uber, and he's going on these spur grants about conspiracies to his patrons.
And it's every conspiracy. Like
He-
he's into every one of them.
Talks
It's
about
wild.
Nobel Prize winning sperm stored under Rockefeller Center.
Yeah, so it begins with, they got the sperm from all the Nobel Prize winners, and they stored it underneath Rockefeller Plaza. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really gross that they did that, right? Yeah.
He talks about fluoride in the water,
Yes, which is real.
right-wing militia, and UN feds.
As he says that all of the militias are actually run by the UN, so that when we support the militias, they'll turn on us and they'll be our overlords, which is kind of true because PatCon Actually, Patriot Conspiracy is run by a bunch of feds. We just had the January 6 people, many of them convicted, some of whom obviously were in some level were feds and whatnot. So exactly.
Mm-hmm. He talks about George Bush New World Order.
Oh, the New World Order speech.
Yeah.
Right. The famous W speech. Yes.
He mentions
the classics.
33rd degree Mason ex-CIA director. It was George Sr.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Yeah. People forget that George Sr. was CIA director for a year. Exactly.
He talks
about... And that does relate to JFK, which is hinted at in the film. So, because Mel keeps bringing... Jerry, the character, keeps bringing these various conspiracies up, most of which are kind of true. I mean, there's a couple that are kind of ridiculous that he throws in there. Mm-hmm. But most of them are actually fairly true. Like he calls the Grateful Dead CIA agent. No, he says they're British intelligence. Mm-hmm. Like, the Grateful Dead, they're CIA. No, he says, they're MI6, right? Which is kind of true.
He talks about RFID chips. And remember those little tracker strips in the cash?
In the dollars. The $100 bill.
It used to be 100 and then it went to 20 and you'd be like, look.
You pull out the strip. Yes.
Like they're tracking.
It's a magnetic strip, which there really was a magnetic strip.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were tracking it, but there was one.
Black helicopters, that's a classic.
Well, it's funny because at the very beginning he mentions the black helicopters, and there's literally a black helicopter flying over when he mentions it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're following Jerry, right?
Yeah, he's being gang
because
stalked.
he is being gang stalked because he got out of their system because he's a programmed assassin. Mm-hmm. That's what we find out later.
Well, he gets triggered by the flashing lights in traffic. So we get a clue that he has some secrets in his mind.
Well, it's not flashing lights. It's the sparks of road work. And the sparks trigger him.
Yeah. And
he goes into a dissociative state. And he starts remembering Captain Jean-Luc Picard torturing him. Jean-Luc Picard. Engage.
He talks about MK Ultra and on the TV he's playing Looney Tunes. And
you talking about when he dissociates?
Yeah, and his brain plays the Looney Tunes.
Well, that's because Patrick Stewart, his handler, uses cartoons to program him.
Right.
Right.
But
and he says it's brain gravy. That's the LSD they inject into him.
Right.
And the cartoon has gravy in it.
Mm-hmm. So he listens to conspiracy radio. Remember that?
No, what was he listening to? I don't remember. I mean, I know it was some kind of...
It was something
what were
like
they talking
Coast
about?
to Coast, or... I can't remember.
Coast to Coast.
That's a classic.
So he's listening to Alex, basically. He's listening to Lord Voldemort. By the way, today on Lord Voldemort, I did cover this. I covered, not Black Helicopters and Conspiracy Theory, but I covered Doors of Perception and Heaven and Hell and Huxley's essay on drugs and the human brain. Very relevant to what we're talking about today, because it turns out in a lot of those other Huxley essays, he talks about, this is Friday Night Brain Gravy. Yeah, Huxley talks about the effects of various drugs and various strobe lights. There's even a section in Heaven and Hell where he talks about strobe lights and LSD experimentation. Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild?
Well, they were doing like work on the road or subway below, but it turned out he thought that had a conspiracy in it.
Yeah,
like everything he sees is a conspiracy, and you're supposed to think that he's crazy because it's everything, but it really is everything's conspiracy.
It really is everything. Now in the movie, some of them are kind of ridiculous because it's like they flooded the subway to kill some important billionaire.
Yeah.
But it turns out that was true. They really did do that, right?
Yeah. Let's see. He lives in a tinfoil house. He is super paranoid. He locks up all his food. Right? His house is a Faraday cage.
Everything, the food's locked up so he doesn't get poisoned.
Right.
And so he knows the code, right? But sometimes he forgets the code to the coffee, right? So he's like extreme paranoia, right? Paranoid awareness gone out the wazoo.
He should have locked up his milk in Edge of Darkness. He didn't.
Exactly. Right.
If you just be more paranoid.
Yeah, Mel in Edge of Darkness should have. That wasn't what I said. I said he should have had his milk locked up.
Yes.
And they couldn't have been radiated.
He has a whole drawer of Clinton files. That was funny.
Well, that was funny, yeah. There was a Clinton file. There's a reference to Operation High Jump on the wall. There's a poster for High Jump, which is the Antarctica base. The Navy's setting up the base in Antarctica. He references earthquake weapons, which are real. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. Well, he thinks that they're going to use earthquake weapons to try and kill the president.
Right, which is silly, but there are earthquake weapons.
Yeah. Which
is odd because Secretary of Defense William Cohen in the 90s has that document where he mentions earthquake weapons. And Alex used to talk about it for years, like in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And that was from the late, like 1997, I think, when it was first mentioned. So it's mentioned in conspiracy theory when nobody knew about this except that one Department of Defense reference. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. I like how he has a newsletter, like a 90s conspiracy newsletter.
It's not slapping the desk. So people are like, oh, why is you spat? It's because it's a glass desk. And so anytime a book hits the desk at all, it picks up the microphone. It's not slapping the desk. I'm not just slapping the desk like a tard. That's what they think. They're like, stop slapping the desk. We are not zillionaires. It's a freaking glass table. It sucks, actually. So no, it shakes. It's annoying. Oh. And it's the books hitting the table. It's not me slapping the table. Anyway, that's just my table rant because everybody fusses. And I'm just like, what are you listening to this podcast on? I mean, I listen on a phone. I put it on. I can hear it across the room from a phone. What is everybody listening to this podcast on? Like giant Dre Beats headphones?
No.
Turning it all the way up. Like, what do you need to hear turning this all the way up? Is he farting? Is he burping? I gotta hear everything in that room. Turn it all the way up.
It's because they love...
This isn't ASMR, dude. Take your creeper stuff elsewhere. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
That's what I was gonna say. They love your ASMR.
They want my ASMR voice.
Yeah. And then when the slap comes, then it jolts them.
It's not there's no slaps. I don't know what they're talking about. Slaps. It's like you set a pencil on this stupid glass table, and they're like, just quit slapping the table. Quit slapping.
Your music slaps.
And your booty claps. Music slaps. Booty claps.
There, you have a new hit right there.
Right there. The music slaps. The booty clap. How's that?
Okay. He has a newsletter with 8 followers. Or 5 followers or whatever. Remember?
That's the best part is that it's kind of like the Lone Gunman.
Yeah.
Like nobody reads it except Mulder.
Yeah.
Right? So when Julia Roberts is like, how many people read conspiracy theory? And he's like, readership's down to 5. Right? And they're killing off his readers because one of them is actually
because he was on
Patrick Stewart.
Because one of his stories was actually true, the assassinating the president one.
Is it that one, or is it just that? Well, isn't it that Patrick Stewart has subscribed because he thinks that it's Jerry that runs it, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that right, or
so.
not? They're killing off the subscribers, right, to his magazine.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to figure out. Is that because they're trying to lure him in? I'm trying to remember.
No,
Why are
they're just
they killing
trying to
it off?
erase him and all of his.
Oh, because he was right about one of the conspiracies.
Yeah.
But Patrick Stewart is trying to catch him because he's broken his programming.
Exactly.
Right.
And he is obsessed with Julia Roberts.
Well, that was good too because we think that he's just a creep, right? We think he's just a lonely spurg that can't get a date. Mm-hmm. But he's actually tasked with protecting her.
Well, yeah, you think he's just a peeper.
Right.
But he is her guardian angel,
Geronimo.
you would say. Mm-hmm. Right.
Love gives you wings, Geronimo.
Yes. Mel is very romantic. I like that about him. You can see that coming out of his Braveheart and conspiracy theory. And
I'm a dude. What do you want me to say? Yes. It'd be like one of the. You mean it'd be like the son of Longshanks?
No. Be like William Wallace.
Freedom.
Remember, he says
all of you guys in the chat. You guys are the subscribers to conspiracy theory.
Right. He says, no Coke and KFC. It's a conspiracy against yourself.
Yes, great line about junk food. And he's like, why would you eat KFC and drink Coca-Cola? It's a conspiracy against you're conspiring against yourself. I thought it was a great line.
So there's Men in Black and Picard, and they kidnap him, and they give him gravy for the brain.
They're trying to get him back in his kennel.
Well, do you remember this was the time when like Guantanamo Bay was popular, talking about?
No, this is
torture
prior. This is
tactics?
prior to Guantanamo Bay. This is 97. That's like early 2000s, like 2002 or 3.
I mean,
that came out right after the big non-event.
Oh.
What about it?
Well, they were doing all the things in this movie that.
Well,
they
it
talk about.
precedes the discussion of waterboarding.
Yeah.
Yes, because they start worse than waterboarding him when they catch him and they take him to that psychiatric shutdown wing of the hospital. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he always buys Catcher in the Rye.
Yes, which is another actual conspiracy trope because there is the association of various assassins, right, with this bizarre novel.
2 famous assassins were caught with that book on, right?
Mm-hmm. Mark David Chapman and James Earl Ray, I guess, right?
He said that Jerry Garcia has 007 rating. Do you think that's true?
No. But it was funny that he was calling them British intelligence, which, I mean, Grateful Dead are more so CIA, but they might as well be. I mean, because the counterculture really does come from Tavistock and British intelligence, so it's kind of true.
I like this line. A good conspiracy theory is an unprovable one.
That was funny. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure what I think about this Catcher in the Rye thing. I mean, maybe it was used in some sort of conditioning process. Because actually, hold on. So they will, when they send like Navy SEALs and Delta Force, they'll make them read a bunch of philosophical things like that. Mm-hmm. So it's entirely possible that, I'm not saying that James Earl Ray and Mark David Chapman were Delta Force, but in the programming they might have been, texts like this might have been used because you could perhaps train the individual to see themselves like the character in the novel, like Holden Caulfield, who's I think a nihilist, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody said J.D. Salinger was in intelligence in World War II.
There you go. Makes sense.
There could be like codes in that book.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, because just today I was surprised at how many things Huxley mentions in Heaven and Hell, and in the appendices to Heaven and Hell that also have references to MK Ultra. I mean, he starts referencing Disney stuff, mm-hmm. strobe lights, LSD. He even mentions like using aesthetics and lights to trigger people's dissociation, mm-hmm. which I didn't expect in this essay. But it fits perfectly with Jerry, right? Jerry is essentially the character who is constantly being triggered. He buys the books because he is gradually realizing that he is part of the assassin program. Mm-hmm. And his job was to kill Julia Roberts' dad. Mm-hmm. Right. And so he's gradually recovering his suppressed memories throughout the movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then at the end, towards the end, he figures out, no, actually, I didn't kill your dad. Right.
They became friends.
I was sent by the CIA to kill your dad, who was a politician who was going to be a problem to the CIA's assassin program. Mm-hmm. And so then he said, now this is interesting. Did you know that Mel is playing here a programmed assassin? And in the 1980s and the 1990s, when he played Mad Dog in Lethal Weapon, he's crazy because he was in the Phoenix program. In the first Lethal Weapon, the Shane Black screenplay has it explicitly mentioned that he's Mad Dog because he was a crazy killer in the Phoenix program, which is an assassin program.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Did you notice they caught him from shopping at Barnes & Noble? So
when he grabs the
try and
book?
show you that they're omniscient and they can catch you doing whatever you're doing. So
Oh, because he purchased the book.
Yeah.
And they were waiting for him to purchase it.
but it wasn't even a credit card. It was like they knew which copies were being sold at what time, and they're like, at the CIA figuring out who just bought
Yeah.
Catcher in the Rye,
Right.
and then that's how they got him.
That seemed a little ridiculous for the 1990s, but somebody said, are you saying that Delta Force reads James Bond? I'm not saying that. I don't remember. I remember reading at one point what they were supposed to read, and I can't remember. Like, part of the training might be that you go live in the woods for extended period of time out in the middle of nowhere, and you might have a book or two, and you're supposed to read and master these texts, or you're living in a shack somewhere. Remember in the Bourne films, when in the one with Jeremy Renner, where they just drop him in Alaska, right? Something like this. I don't remember, but there is something. I just don't remember which text they read, but it is more like philosophical text. Like, I don't know. I know they have to read Heinlein at the Navy War College, so because there's a lot of philosophical, moral questions that come up in Heinlein novels.
Do you remember that movie with it was in Vietnam with him?
With who?
Mel Gibson. Wasn't like Air America.
Vietnam. Oh, you're talking about Air America, where him and Robert Downey Jr. are the CIA drug plane guys.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Another one of these, yeah. That was not like 1990, 91, but it takes place in the Vietnam period. You're correct. Yeah, exactly. We did a boiler room about Air America. Mm-hmm. And I've read books on Air America now, so now I know a lot more about that.
I like the scene where he is like trying to point out all of these things that fit together, and he's like, nobody ever sees what I see. And that's kind of like conspiracy theorist frustration. Yeah,
it's really relevant to us because you can identify with Mel. You know what I mean? Like, especially...
It does make you feel like you're crazy.
Yeah,
because nobody else sees what you see.
So this came out in 97. I first got introduced to conspiracy theories through this movie. I first got into actual conspiracy books 1 year later. 1998 was my first conspiracy book that I read. And then I read a few more in the next couple of years. I was still a goofy evangelical, but I remember what it was like in the late 90s being into conspiracy stuff, and no one else was. Nobody. I mean, you couldn't talk to anybody about this. And the person that woke Alex Jones up, that's who I was first reading, right? I was reading Tex Mars's books in the late 90s. I read his book on cults. I read his book on microchips, the New World Order. I read a book on the United Nations and socialism and Marxism. So I didn't even realize, like, I was, reading this crazy stuff that you just saw this movie about.
Yeah.
And like, who would have known that this, here, what are we, how many years later? 20 something years later. And now we're living in the New World Order being rolled out. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. It all happened just like they said, just like that John Coleman in the 90s.
Yeah, the Tavistock book, the Committee of 300 book, yeah. What was the first book I read? I don't know. When I was a child, I read Brothers Karamazov. I'm just kidding. First book I ever read, I don't know.
I had those little see and says. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a book with a record. It's like, when you hear this bell, turn the page. And I think I taught myself how to read on that thing just by following it. The Three Little Pigs scared me, though.
My first book was Everybody Poops.
You have your first little book.
Joking.
It has a little bear on it somewhere.
No, it's a giraffe.
Is it a giraffe? It's like
I didn't read that, though. I don't even know where. I just found that somewhere when I was a kid. I don't know where it came from.
I loved Monster at the End of the Book. Little golden book. And I love Value Tales about Louis Pasteur. Those were my childhood books.
I had an illustrated child's Bible, and I remember that. I used to love looking at the pictures of David and Goliath. So that was one of my, probably 4 or 5 years old. I remember looking at that. I didn't know how to read yet, though. But anyway, I don't remember what the first book I read was. Some golden book, probably, for kids, right?
Yeah, Monster at the End of the Book. Okay, Frog and Toad also. I love those books. There are two main groups.
Pepe?
No. Two main groups of wealthy elite families, and the military-industrial complex is what they talk about as the they.
Yes, and it's pretty much correct, isn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of what it is. I mean, it was surprising how many things in this screenplay came up, as legitimate conspiracies. Because I hadn't watched this movie in probably 10 years, so I was interested to see, okay, how many things do you think in this movie that Jerry Mel Gibson mentions are going to be real conspiracies? And I would say, probably about 70%.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? 75?
Well, he talks about dialectics. Remember?
Does he mention that?
And
What does he say? I don't remember that.
he
That's
tells
interesting.
Julia Roberts about dialectics, and then he talks about Avril Harriman, where the bushes come from.
Yeah. What does he say about dialectics, though?
I don't remember.
Oh, that they control both sides.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I remember that. Good point.
And there's this controlling group, the Global Fund for Mergers and Acquisitions, which sounds like BlackRock.
Yes, exactly. A giant sort of Vanguard BlackRock entity. Good point.
Yeah. And then the Dr. Jonas was like Atticus Finch. MK Ultra Project Mockingbird. You put those kind of together.
Well, I was just joking about Atticus Finch.
Oh.
That's from To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh, well, Atticus Finch is the character from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah.
And then
Project
Project
Mockingbird.
Mockingbird is, I think, why we're supposed to associate these names. Exactly. So now I see why I said that. Yeah.
And
Good
then
point. And if you don't know, Project Mockingbird is the CIA's control of the media for many, many years.
they talk about John Hinckley and MK Ultra. They mention
Who, Mel Gibson does?
Yeah. They mention stolen technology, which is the ability to create these assassins.
Yes. So at one point, Julia Roberts goes and talks to... yeah, that's right. But that's Patrick Stewart's lie, right? He lies and says that people have stolen this and that they're misusing it. But it turns out he's the one that's misusing it.
Yeah, that's what he tells Julia Roberts.
Yeah, he's creating assassins for the government to go and kill people that are problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, and her dad was a senator or lawyer
Something.
who was going to
Lawyer,
cause
I
he was going to
think,
cause
she
a
also
problem.
worked at a law firm to try and vindicate him or something.
She was like the public defender or something. Yeah.
So, conspiracy classic.
It was a conspiracy classic.
Right?
Yeah.
Conspiracy
Very much
theory.
woke me up. Got me woke. You got me woke, Mel. Thank you, baby. I'm straight up woke now.
You got me woke.
All right, if you guys would hit like and share. Remind you too that we have our live event coming up with your boy Jamie Kennedy over there in the little city of Los Angeles. You ever heard of that? And that will be a lot of fun. Get your tickets right there. July 6th. It's going to be a fun 5-hour event. And by the way, I just heard from a little birdie that Father Deacon Dr. Ananias might show up. And maybe he'll talk a little bit about philosophical topics. So that will be a lot of fun. Get your ticket right there, July 6th. 5 hours from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. You can't beat that. I'll be talking. I'll be doing impressions. Jamie will be talking. Father Deacon will do a little talk. And then Jamie Kennedy will do stand-up. You can't beat that. So get your tickets right there.
And the venue looks really fun.
It's really cool.
And people have
It's
the
an
best
airport.
time.
It's an airport hangar with a giant bunch of neon everywhere.
Yeah. It looks like a cool place, and everyone always has the best time and the best things to say about our party.
Our events are parties. They're not boring lectures. They're parties. Right?
Yeah. Party.
Guys, if you would also support the show via the super chat function, we got, I don't know what the heck is going on a Friday night. Ain't nothing going on a Friday night. You're supposed to be over here watching live streams and movies with us. So, shout out to the faithful 350 over here, right? Leonidas had his 300. We have our 350.
Yeah.
You know who Leonidas is? Leonidas?
The 300.
Gerard Butler.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that guy.
Gerard Jutler.
Berard Jutler. Gutler.
Okay. Apocalypto was a masterpiece, not for the faint of heart. What do you think?
Mel doesn't shy away from the blood and the guts.
No.
And it didn't bother me, though. I mean, I enjoyed Apocalypto and Braveheart. It had been years since I'd seen either one of these, and I really thought both of them were masterpieces. I was impressed. They hold up.
This is one of those movies that's so rare because it just grabs your attention and it transports you into another place, and you feel like you have actually been through this experience.
Yes, it's called Mexico. It's called Tijuana, right?
Yes, it's called the lovely Mayan Empire.
It's called Tijuana.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Shout out to all of our Tijuana audience members out there.
But no, seriously, like you feel like you've been through something after you watch this.
It's a journey. It's an adventure. It is. It is a harrowing experience from kind of the opening scene all the way through.
Yeah.
It's a ride.
And just that they used the language and no known actors, and everything was so immersive and just really done very well. And it's about a great civilization, how it destroys itself from within.
Yeah, it's analogous to us, right? I mean, that's the crazy part, is that this isn't really about the Mayan Empire. It's about now. And that completely degenerate civilizations, quote unquote, undo themselves and they give way to something else. What's most amazing about this movie is that it is not a movie that fits into the cultural relativism paradigm. This movie clearly presents the notion that there are morally superior cultures. So cultural relativism is refuted by this film. And this, just the idea that you can have an entire empire built around human sacrifice and anti-humanism is the perfect analogy for where we're going with Klaus and the Great Reset and what's really rolling out right now. So Apocalypto, the apocalypse does not always necessarily mean the end of the world. You can also have an end of an era, an end of a civilization.
Does it mean the revealing, or what does it mean?
It means a lot of different things. But in this situation, it means the revelation of the end of the Mayan Empire, and the collapse and the coming of, Catholicism, essentially.
Do you remember in like 2010, 2011, when the Mayan calendar was having its moment in the conspiracy?
Which was a stupid psyop, but yeah.
Yeah. Why was it a psyop? It wasn't just a goofy astrological thing.
No, it's mentioned by who's the guy that wrote Lucifer Rising? Robert Anton Wilson and Terrence McKenna.
Oh, okay.
And they're more or less psyop operatives.
Yeah, so everyone thought that the world was going to end in December 21st, 2012. Or that we would be saved by the Galactic Federation.
Only people who are complete
aliens.
retards believe that.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that. I always thought that was obviously retarded. But
that was the moment in 2012. Like, everyone was waiting for December 2012. Like,
everyone? Like, who are...
Everyone
maybe
in the weird, like,
maybe that you knew.
circles, like, conspiracy con people are weird cuckoo.
The 2012s, that was bass and retarded. I mean, that was bass and retarded. I didn't believe that. But Apocalypto was 2006, so this is actually many years. This is 6 years prior to the Mayan 2012
I'm just
calendar
making
bullshit.
a joke about the Mayan calendar.
Yes, it is joke worthy. Absolutely.
It had a moment.
But it's mentioned by Terrence McKenna and Robert Anton Wilson.
Right.
Before 2012.
It was the Y2K of, the 2010s.
Y2K is more believable than the Mayan calendar bullshit. So...
There was also another book by Daniel Pinchbeck. You remember that thing?
I know who that is.
One of those,
but no,
like, McKenna-y.
I know who he is. I've never listened to any of these idiots. But somebody said Terrence McKenna claimed that he got it from the I Ching.
Oh, gosh.
I was staring at the little boxes and lines from the I Ching, and I realized that the end of the world was coming according to the Mayan calendar in 2012.
No, 2012 was not any kind of end of the world. I'm sorry, it's not. It was nothing. It was just the year 2012. It had nothing to do with Mayans.
Nothing burger. Okay, so this is about city dwellers versus rural.
That's a theme here, yeah.
And that kind of comes up in Braveheart also.
Yeah, the degen city bugmen, right, versus the the country boys. Country boy can't survive.
And the chief of the rural people doesn't want them to learn fear because that's how they control the people in the city.
Yes, good point. The religious duping is a really awesome element as well, right? In the city, the Mayan Empire is run by this degenerate priesthood and a degenerate emperor, and they're in on it.
Yeah.
It's made very clear that they're, over there winking at each other when the eclipse comes.
Yeah.
And they've duped all the people into thinking that they caused the sun to go to sleep and resurrect. Mm-hmm. And that will bring the crops back. Mm-hmm. But they had to sacrifice, 10,000 hearts or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's how they've been controlling people since beginning of time, really. The priestcraft knows the astrology, and that's kept a secret. And then you have your royal family, and they work together.
Well, it's the exact same thing that the priest class of today does by saying that having children and breathing air is causing Mother Earth to die, and you must reduce your population or else you're going to hurt Mother Earth. It's the exact same lie.
That's a good point.
I mean, the Mayan Empire is an anti-human empire.
Yeah.
It's antinatal, anti-human, human sacrifice.
Yeah.
The NWO is the exact same. Why is that? This is because all of these empires in world history fall into these same patterns because they are motivated by and worship an evil spirit, the same demonic powers. Mm-hmm. We've only had the introduction of Christianity as the alteration and the Christianizing of this Roman Empire and then Byzantine Empire and then Russian Empire, right? These are the Christian empires that came to be that promoted pro-life and so forth. Complete change in the history of all of these degenerate pagan civilizations. And now we're going back to the Babel of the Great Reset.
Well, they make a joke about eating the little boy. The parents do, and that's kind of a foreshadowing.
Right.
Of what
because he says he's holding him up like he's dinner, and then we find out later on that the human beings are it's a giant meat market.
Yes. And then there's a story when they're all sitting around the campfire and the elders talking about greed, basically how all the animals have given a piece of themselves to a human, but it's never enough. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
story?
there's like this statement that it's a prophetic statement. We have several characters that pop up and kind of have these prophetic statements. One is the diseased girl who kind of predicts the end of the Mayan Empire. And then we get the tribesman, the chief, who kind of gives this prediction of empires collapse because they can never get enough, right? The greed overwhelms them and then they fall apart from within. And he's speaking of men in general, but it's applying to the Mayan Empire because the emperor, right, he just wants more. Mm-hmm. His child is fat, right, which signifies their overabundance and greed. Mm-hmm. And then they collapse because they think they're going to kill Jaguar Paw. They run to the edge of the beach, and there come the conquistadors.
Right. When they're captured, one of the ladies prays to the goddess Ixchil. Ixchil?
Yes. This is interesting because she's basically, in a lot of religious, comparative religion, the same as Tonantzin. So Tonantzin and Ixchil or whatever are basically the Mayan version of the goddess. And it's interesting because Our Lady Guadalupe, which is the Virgin of Guadalupe, the so-called Roman Catholic Marian apparition that appeared, as I understand it, the temple there ended up, I think it got raised over, but that's also where there's like a giant Virgin of Guadalupe cathedral. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, obviously I'm not Roman Catholic, so I don't necessarily say that it's legitimate. But it is interesting that it seems to be a kind of syncretism to me because I'm reading this article from the Yucatan Times. It's really good on Tonantzin, and it says, every December 12th in Mexico, the Virgin of Guadalupe is celebrated, a festivity that, according to legend, in 1531, the Virgin appeared to Juan Diego on Tepeyac Hill in Mexico. In this meeting, believed by millions of Catholics, the Virgin asked Juan Diego to go to the Archbishop and to build a temple on the top of the hill. The friar didn't believe the words and asked for proof. Upon recording the encounter, the Virgin orders him to take roses on his tilma, which is an indigenous garment. When Juan Diego unrolled his garment, he let go of the flowers in front of the friar, and a miracle happened. The Virgin of Guadalupe miraculously imprinted roses on the clothes. So, for 500 years, the Basilica of the Guadalupe has been there, which every Mexican knows since childhood. But prior to the Spanish conquest, there was a temple there that was built to the goddess Tonantzin, attended by settlers from all over the Anahuac Empire. The Federation of the Tribes, this is the name of their empire. The stories collected by the Spanish friars give this account. So this is from the conquistadors' friars that they brought. The Mexicans and the Nahua people believed that at the top of the hill, the mother goddess would appear. The natives revered the goddess. According to testimony, she appeared as a young girl in a robe and would reveal secrets to the persons that she appeared to. So the friars said that in the text, the mountain is called Tepeyac, and they built a temple dedicated to the goddess or the mother of the gods. They called her Tonantzin, and they made sacrifices to her. So I don't buy this Roman Catholic argument like Roman Catholics like to do, which basically is syncretism, that, oh, well, that's just Mary. Really? Tonantzin is the snake woman, so that's not Mary. But then they'll say, oh, well, that was a demon, but Mary appeared and got rid of the demon. Okay, whatever.
Well,
but
Mary's not associated with jaguars and snakes and all kinds of rainbows and like this. These goddesses
I mean, it's
are.
obviously a kind of like syncretism.
Yeah.
Right? Because for a lot of these indigenous people, like a lot of these, like it's just like Santa Muerte, right? Saint Death. That's not anything to do with the Christian religion, right? This is more like Candomblé. Right?
Yeah.
Santeria.
Yeah.
So I don't see a big difference between Santeria and what I see with Tonantzin and Virgin of Guadalupe in Mexico. Now, it's great that the Spanish got them to stop sacrificing human beings, but that doesn't I'm not going to be a Roman Catholic because, oh, well, the Roman Catholics, they think this is an argument. Like, they're like, well, Virgin of Guadalupe, that proves Roman Catholicism. No, it doesn't. It proves syncretism to me. So... I mean, it's great that they got her to the Mexicans to stop sacrificing humans, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't prove that it's the Virgin Mary. It could be the Spanish conquistadors are like, all right, you're gonna stop worship. You're just gonna stop killing humans.
Yeah.
I mean, it's conquistadors and soldiers coming. Okay.
I'll practice Santeria.
Okay, Sublime.
Okay.
Now wait, there's one more thing I want to read.
Okay.
The ancient Mexican stories of Tonantzin before the Spaniards arrived, supposedly there would be a lament of a woman heard at the lake of Texcoco, and she would say, "My children, you are the beloved children of Anahuac. Your destruction is near." The priest thought that it was the goddess Chihuahua who prophesied the destruction of the Anahuac people. Shortly after the Mexican people defeat, the Spanish destroyed the temple, the Templo Mayor to Tonantzin in Mexico City, and the lament of the goddess was heard, crying for her dwelling, which had been defiled by the Spanish invaders. This gave way to the legend of La Llorona, which is a horror movie. There's two parts to the La Llorona. I've not seen this horror movie, but I think one of them is pretty popular.
Is that the name of her? Sometimes you said they turned her into Mary
It's
La
called The
Llorona.
Legend of La Llorona,
Okay.
which is the story of the goddess weeping for her temple being destroyed by the Spanish. So, again, to me, it's obvious that the Spanish, knowing how to manipulate the indigenous people to believe in Catholicism, they just Catholicize the indigenous religion, which is what Santeria and Candomblé and all that is. I'm not saying that, by the way, that makes the Spanish inherently evil, because this is better than the human sacrifice religion.
Well, this movie is kind of suggesting that they were already spiritually dead, and because they were already being
Yes, the Mayan
under
Empire.
biblical plagues.
The Mayan Empire is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the conquistadors were arriving at a weak point,
Right.
and they were already sick and easy to overtake.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they had, like, remember the powdered donut mines?
Yeah, the limestone. So they
Yeah.
were like, they had all these people down there cutting up limestone and doing slave labor.
Yeah.
Because they were enslaving the tribes that they would conquer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, because of all this, they had some kind of blight on the crops and all of the plagues. And
Oh wait, can I read this next part?
yeah, sure.
This is important, and it gets even crazier. So then we come to the Spanish Virgin of Guadalupe. In the 14th century, in the province of Spain, Cáceres, on the banks of the Guadalupe River, which is a word of Moor and Latin origin, meaning the river of wolves, a legend was developed which tells of the shepherd Cordero, who found a brown statue of the Virgin Mary, who is said to have worked miracles in the region. Years later, during the conquest of America, it was designated by Spain's Catholic kings as the protector of the Indians in the New World. Hernan Cortes, the conqueror of Tenochtitlan, carried the standard of the Virgin of Extremadura, of which he was a faithful devotee since he came from the Guadalupan region. Mexican historian Edmundo Gorman warns in some of his notes that by the year 1530, Franciscan friars built a hermitage dedicated to the Spanish Virgin, trying to replace a pagan rite with a Catholic one. That's what I'm getting at, exactly. The image of the Virgin of Guadalupe is thus this miraculous supposed legend captured on the garment of Juan Diego, but it takes on more of an objective vision when the symbols manifested in the image are analyzed, since the Virgin of Guadalupe image contains elements of pre-Hispanic ideas mixed with Catholic symbols. You know what I'm talking about. You have a big picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you've
I've
seen
been to
this, right?
Guadalajara, and
Okay.
is that where
But-
her thing is?
You know what the famous image of the, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. It includes rhetorics such as the La Flor y la Canto, which is one of the philosophies of the Aztec world. Interesting. Thus, the history of the Guadalupan myth takes on a different force when we remember the cult of Tonantzin from the perspective with which the beautiful rhetorical resources of Nahuatl poetry are reading in the reading of the Nican Mapuhua. I don't know what any of this is, but point is that it's syncretism is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
The Basilica, okay, so then here's the end of it. The core of the story lies in the fact that the deep religious feeling that has continued for 500 plus years that brings millions of people to the Basilica of Tepeyac to ask favors of the Virgin is really the same practice of the Mexican people that they would do for Tonantzin. The fidelity to the Virgin cult enriches and provides the spiritual people. So this is not a hater article, by the way. Mexicans embrace this syncretism as part of the old world meeting the new world. So this article of this guy who's promoting it is admitting that it's syncretism.
Well,
And this is not the way to go about converting people, right? This is what like when Michael Lofton says that Pachamama is the Virgin Mary. No, Pachamama is a demon. Virgin Mary is not a demon. The snake woman Tonantzin is a demon. Okay, Teotocos is not a demon. So you can't blend the symbols, dummy.
That's true.
What do you think?
I was just thinking about the contrast between the jungle and the farmland, and then the
City.
actual city itself.
The degenerate city life.
Yeah.
The Mayan bugmen.
And so they're coming out of this pristine way of living where they're in balance with nature, if you want to call it that. They're hunting, gathering, living off the land.
This is true. Yeah, country boy can't survive.
Right.
And this is actually how he beats the city people.
Yeah.
Because he knows the forest. He says, this is my forest. I've hunted it with my father, and my son will hunt it after me.
So going through the farmland, then they come across, like, people that have this laughing sickness, and
Well, the curses.
yeah, and then this little girl puts curses on them.
Well, the curse, the Mayan Empire is undergoing curses because it's cursed.
Right.
So they have plagues, blights. They have the eclipse is actually the eclipse is symbolic of the eclipse of the empire.
Right. So you have 3 worlds colliding. You have the jungle way, the city way, and then with the conquistadors coming, it's like the new
world.
technological
The new
way.
world,
So
yeah.
it's like 3 ways of life kind of intersecting. The city looks like hell, by the way.
Well, one thing I like about this too is that although it does have the appreciation for what is good in some indigenous cultures, it also is not cultural relativism, because the Mayan Empire is clearly not superior and spiritual because it's indigenous. So again, thank you, Bayes Mel.
The aristocrats are on fleek, though, in the city.
They got some blue teeth. They got some.
What is that, green jade?
They
or
got their
something?
freaking
What is
gauges in,
it? They do.
looking like they working over there at Hot Topic.
Totally. They have like the skater aesthetic.
That skaggy bitch over there at Hot
Bones
Topic.
through the nose.
She
like,
working at
literally.
Hot Topic.
Yep.
Yo.
Actually, the king's like feather piece was.
I'm gonna
pretty
wear that
tight.
next live
Yeah,
stream.
that
I like
was-
that. More of that next. That
That's
head,
impressive.
that thing that the high priest had, that
Yeah.
headgear. I'm gonna wear that.
I was liking those things.
By the way, we don't want to go to church here.
No, I don't care for this.
Don't go to this liturgy. If you see the Mayan liturgy happening like this, run for the hills, because you about to get cut up.
They're obviously in contact with demons who let them know about these astrological events. They're sun worshippers, and so that's why they have all this
Lucifer.
religion wrapped up in mind controlling of the people below.
They worshiping the devil.
Yeah, it's like he's literally on top of the temple and the people below them.
It's a ziggurat, and every ziggurat goes back to the Tower of Babel, the original ziggurat.
Good
Did
point.
you ever wonder why all of the world religions build pyramids and ziggurats? It's because of Babel.
They mentioned Kukulkan. Is he the god of the Mayans?
Is he? I don't
I
remember.
guess who they were
Kukulkan?
sacrificing. Yeah,
Is that the sun god?
I probably. And you mentioned the chubby little prince. So they get up to the top of this thing and they're about to be sacrificed.
Body positive prince.
And he represents like the opulence and the decadence of the
Right.
royal family and the priest class.
Kukulkan is the winged serpent. So they worship
that
him,
is like
Lucifer.
Quetzalcoatl
Yeah,
too,
it's
right?
it's Satan, a flying winged serpent. That's the devil.
Okay.
I mean, the devil is described as a plumed serpent. I mean, the biblical texts, right, even speak this way.
So their Mayan calendar ended.
The fiery serpents that are mentioned in Numbers. What?
They came to the end of their Mayan calendar in a way.
Terrence McKenna was right.
Yeah.
The Mayan calendar was correct.
Yes. And there's firstborn dying, like in Egypt. Remember the
Yeah, that was one of the-
slaver guy
It's one of the curses, yeah.
lost his firstborn when he was chasing jaguar paw.
Yeah, he's like the main warrior. And if you remember, he's like the general of the Mayan Empire, right? And there's one part where a tree falls and he says, I am walking here, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a god.
Yeah.
And so they have this delusion that they're basically gods on earth, right? Him and the emperor, right? And then just like we see with Pharaoh, he loses his firstborn because he's a killer of firstborn. Yeah, there's a lot of Exodus themes here, right? Just like in Exodus you have the plagues that come upon Egypt. These plagues are coming upon the Mayan Empire.
And in the end, it's because he knows the jungle better than anybody, so he can survive, and he has no fear. It's because he didn't grow up.
Well, he resorts to what's natural,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that kinship that he has with the animals and with nature, that's what saves him, right? He uses the poison frog.
Mm-hmm.
He covers himself in mud, and so he looks like a jaguar,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he can hide in the darkness. So he resorts to his natural survival instincts, and that's how he survives versus these people who are just degenerate city dwellers who don't know anything about reality. They're cut off from reality.
Do you remember that scene where just the snake went like that and bit him in the neck because the omen was bad? I like this movie a lot.
Yeah, it's great. And it's, it's 100% an anti-culture. It's opposed to cultural relativism. So you can't beat that.
Yeah.
They would never make a movie like this. Now the movie would be like how the Mayan Empire is, and the human sacrifice is all great, based and woke, right?
Well, they're sacrificing all the bigots. That's why.
And it would be like the Mayan Empire would be cutting out the heart of the Spanish conquistadors, and that would be like they would be the heroes.
Yay. Well, this movie actually made me want to watch more like Christopher Columbus timey things. So we were looking at those goofy Gerard Depardieu movie. Remember that?
1492.
Yeah.
Conquest of Paradise.
Oh, and one with Colin Farrell that I never seen.
New World. Yeah.
So we have those to look forward to.
All right, let's get to again one of the classics, one of the best movies, Braveheart. William Wallace, the Scottish hero. We don't know much about the real life of William Wallace except for some of the sort of general details. So obviously a lot of artistic license taken here, and I was trying to brush up on some articles reading about him. Some of the elements are true in terms of like wars for Scottish independence and the king, the English king trying to basically buy off the Scottish lords and co-opt them and all that. So that part's true, but William Wallace macking on the French princess and all that, no, that's all made up. But it makes for a great story, right?
The soundtrack slaps. It holds up.
Howard Shore. I used to, I still have this CD, I think, of this soundtrack.
Yeah.
I've had it since the 90s. It's one of the few CDs that has made it through the years from 1995 till now.
Man, 1995 was such a great year for movies. Like 1993 to 99 was just like peak blockbuster.
Yeah, there's a lot of great movies in the 90s.
Golden era
absolutely.
movies.
There were. 80s and 90s were a good era.
Yeah.
2000s, kind of. I mean, there's still good ones. But when we get up to about 2010, that's when there's a real noticeable decline. Movies really just start tanking.
1280 AD is where we're at.
Yeah, I like the introduction of we're kind of Catholic, but there's still some paganism. Mm-hmm. So they're still kind of doing the outlawed bagpipe tunes of the pagans.
There's some syncretism going on.
There's a little bit of paganism remnants, but pretty much we've got Catholicism here, and actually even some kind of Orthodox elements, right? You can kind of see even in the Catholicism of this 1200s here, because this is not too long after. I mean, we don't get Filioque dogmatized until 1274. But we can grant some, free passes here because people in 1280 wouldn't have known what happened in Lyons in 1274. So they wouldn't have necessarily known what was going on. So we can grant some passes here to William Wallace and the Orthodox Catholics of this time period. A free pass from me, okay? But did you notice that when they get married, she wears a crown? Mm-hmm. And I don't think in the traditional Latin marriage rite, nobody wears a crown. Does anybody remember? Has anybody been married in the trad cat Latin mass rite of marriage? I don't think maybe you do, and I just don't know. I don't know. I went to the Latin mass for many years, but I've never been to a trad cat marriage, so I don't know. By the way, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is horribly. It's so bad it's funny.
The Kevin Costner one?
It's so bad it's funny.
That was one of my favorites when I was a kid.
Oh man, it doesn't. You should rewatch it.
What?
It's
it
so
doesn't hold
bad.
up.
No, it's funny. It's so bad it's funny.
Look into my eyes. Remember that?
Of course, I remember. If you were alive at that time period, there's no person who was alive at that time period that has not heard that god awful song. Yeah, so there is no crowning in the Latin Mass. However, Mel's Scottish peasant babe, she has a crown. Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild?
Well, they have to marry in secret because of the
Prima Nocte
decree.
Prima Nocte.
And I'm pretty sure they talk about this in Epic of Gilgamesh. that he was.
Well,
doing
so this
that.
probably goes back to the pagan world.
Yes,
Yeah.
because they say Edward Longshanks was a cruel pagan who
Right.
claimed the throne. He hanged all the Scottish landowners, and all the people with the cool Scottish mullets. And that's how I want you to do your hair next, by the way.
I mean, Theo Von, basically, you know, he would have been doing good at this time.
The Highland hillbilly with the braids.
Yep.
I love that.
Okay.
Okay. Mother died, dad died, brother died, so he's an orphan and raised by his uncle who educates him.
His uncle is a committed Catholic too, which is interesting because he teaches him Latin. He takes him on a pilgrimage to Rome. So Mel was probably getting pretty serious about his trad Catholicism, I would guess, in the 90s, because we get this, and then we get conspiracy theory. So, you know, Mel was way ahead of the curve. The Mel curve. The bell curve.
The Mel curve. I get it. There's a sad little meet cute at his family funeral where the girl gives him the Scottish thistle. Remember that?
This is my people, by the way. Y'all wondering, I'm Clan Maxwell and Clan Scott. So you want to know where I come from? I just basically descend from a Scottish wizard king, Michael Scott. I'm serious.
Yeah, nice.
Not Michael Scott of The Office. Michael Scott, SCOT, the wizard king of Scotland.
Nice.
So that's where I come from. So this movie's about me, basically, is what I'm saying.
So, did you say this already, but they gave them a Catholic funeral and then later on they did a secret.
Later on, they played the outlawed tunes and the bagpipes.
Yes.
The pagan tunes and the what?
Pagan bagpipe.
Why were the I don't? That's odd. I wonder if that was really the case. Like, did the church try to outlaw bagpipe tunes? This is a little odd.
So
but
this is another reason why this movie would never get made today. The English prince is
Skittles.
whatever. And
He's a Skittles boy.
he has to marry the French princess.
But that one part is pretty funny too. You know, where Daddy Longshanks boots his lover out the window.
That was a shocking scene. That was like a very memorable, like nobody ever forgets that.
And
'Cause
then that guy's like, ooh, ooh.
he's like the,
Lady Grantham.
yes, young Lady Grantham.
Ooh. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Lady Grantham, baby.
This is very much a David and Goliath movie.
That's a good analogy. It is very David and Goliath. And by the way, did you notice that the Patriot? I always thought the Patriot was really just kind of redoing Braveheart. But then I realized, what do I like about both of them? Mel is fighting the degenerate British monarchy. Which,
Mel,
why don't we,
help.
Mel, help us. Come beat the degenerate British monarchs today. I think, did we just have one crowned?
Yeah, and they're revolting against that. Like, everyone on TikTok is talking about how they're over this royal family.
Well, they're a bunch of Malthusian goons.
Well,
so
I mean, Prince Philip, come on, that's not.
and Andrew.
Yeah.
Somebody made a good point too, that Andrew's actually in the line to be a king. So if you, they were making the argument, if you give your allegiance to Charles, you also are de facto give your allegiance to Andrew.
Yeah.
Who was that Jeff Stein McEffrey Island?
Yeah.
Right. I just thought that was funny, but
Anyway.
no, these people are they're, and like Lord Voldemort was saying today, they're not even British. They're not Anglo-Saxon. They're
Saxe-Coburg-Gotha.
and Romanian.
Yeah.
They're Romanian.
They're Dracula. Remember he says I'm related
Actually,
to
though,
Dracula.
that's not even. Yeah, but that's not. They're not even as cool as Dracula, because Dracula was kind of Orthodox.
Yeah.
If you read about Vlad the Impaler, it's like he was in that period where, and he was like on the edge of Romania, where it's like he might be a little Roman Catholic, but he might be Orthodox, and maybe he'd back and forth. So he kind of is in that gray area.
What if Dracula was the good guy?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He's like more based and red pilled than any of these
Because
horrible.
he was fighting the Islam?
Yes.
Okay.
And he's way more beige, chat, and red pilled than any of these horrible English. They're not even pseudo English goblins.
I'm Dracula pilled.
Yes. I got Dracula pilled a long time ago. I forget who Dracula pilled me, but yeah. A lot of people aren't even Dracula pilled. Didn't even know. They're like, what? Oh, dude, have you taken the Dracula pill? I just Dracula pilled you. You didn't even know?
No.
You just got Dracula pilled. I didn't do my cape like this.
Yes.
I just Dracula pilled Jamie. You're going to be sucking down blood tonight.
That's why it's the red pill. Okay, so
The blood pill.
the English are doing this prima nocta and trying to breed out the Scots, right? He's like, the problem with Scotland is the Scots. And that's happening today.
Yeah,
like,
well, he's emblematic of Malthusian British kings.
Yeah. And
We'll breed them out.
just recently, that thing in Ireland where you can't say Ireland's for the Irish anymore.
The problem with Scotland is that it's full of Scots.
And they are saying that they need twice as many people in Ireland, but non-WHIT people.
Of course. Yes.
So they're breeding out Irish now, just like
Right.
in this movie they're trying to breed out Scottish.
I like the crazy Irish dude. Everybody loves that character. He's everybody's favorite character. The one that talks to God. He's like,
Oh, yeah.
my island.
Yeah.
Right.
The crazy Irish guy.
If I fight for you, can I kill English people?
Braveheart 2, The Resurrection. Didn't.
Everybody just got vampire pilled.
Yep.
Now everybody's abased in Chad.
Chad Dracul.
Longshanks was a good man.
Instead of Vlad, it's Chad the Impaler.
Chad the Impaler.
Okay. They have hobbit houses. I thought that was sweet.
Yeah, I guess
lived-
Highland people had hobbit houses
Yeah.
like the Shire.
And like you said, they had to elope because he didn't want to be sharing her with no English nobles. And you have your tasteful lovemaking, which, you know, those are my not favorite.
We know.
But this was okay.
We know
it
your
was,
views.
At least they weren't doing it in the dirty
All it
dishes.
had was back touching. So they just
Yes.
touched backs.
He was very gentle and
So
yeah.
thank you, Mel, for
But-
just touching backs.
It looks cold out there to be having your honeymoon
Well, but
out
they
in
look
the-
they look tough.
Yeah.
So I imagine they can handle lovemaking in the cold.
Okay. They tried to R-word his wife, and they ended up killing her.
Yes.
And this was the catalyst.
This
to the
is the
whole war.
catalyst. He's had enough.
Right.
And that's just the breaking point. You can kill mom and dad and brother, but you can't take the one babe in this village. You know what I mean? I mean, because
Yeah,
you're talking about like peasant villages in the Middle Ages. There's not a lot of options, right?
Yeah.
The market is tiny, and if you kill the one hot chick in the village, that's it. Like, it's time to fight. Because there's nobody. Who are you gonna sleep with now? Everybody's a bunch of hags. So, right?
Well, everyone's covered in mud and like pig poop. Like she was the only one that bathed that looked like.
Everyone's
Took
covered
the
in
one girl
mud.
with the hygiene and that I've loved for my whole life.
Right.
Um,
And he saved that thistle that whole
he
time.
did. He saved it. He was sentimental. Okay, so the soy boys are from England, and then on the borders you have all these nobles who like do deals with the King of England, and they're encroaching in the Scottish Highlands and taking the freedom away from the Highlanders.
Yes. By the way, my clan's castle is owned by this queen still.
Well, go claim it back.
What's it called? It's called Carlaverloch. Yeah. It's in ruins. I've shown it to you, remember? Mm-hmm. It looks pretty cool though. It's like a three-tower castle.
That's cool.
It is cool, except it's all in ruins.
Nice.
And that's Clan Maxwell's castle, but the queen owns all the castles. Why does she own all of the clan's castles?
Because of this stuff right here.
She needs to give that shit back, dude.
All the Scottish noblemen
I want my castle back.
are cowardly, and they just want to
It's
do
not.
deals.
It's not. Yeah. It's actually the fault of the co-opted noblemen. Exactly.
Right. That was his downfall. Like they could have had a free country a long time ago,
Yeah.
if their nobles weren't.
And I was reading that part's true.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they corrupted Robert the Bruce, but he was a real guy.
Mm-hmm.
But they did corrupt the Scottish nobles.
Well, he explains the whole thing, like the old dad with leprosy or whatever, or syphilis or whatever disease he had. He's like the weasel that hides in the shadows and puppeteers everybody and plays both sides so that his
because
son
the English had bought him off.
Yeah.
They give you land and title, and then you're co-opted.
Right.
You don't fight back.
So, but William Wallace is going to win in the end because the Queen of England is inspired by, or the princess is inspired by his.
She's not just inspired; she's also inseminated.
Yes. She is courted by him.
She has a baguette in the oven. Bun in the oven, baguette in the oven. Come on, she's
But-
a French princess.
Right. Well, she
She has a baguette in the oven.
All of these tales of his bravery, and it's for love and for a woman, so that makes her swoon because her husband is Skittles.
Yes, he has a sassy boy, a Nancy boy, and he gets out the window.
So he's winning all of these things, and he becomes Sir William Wallace, but then he finds out that he's never going anywhere because the nobles never agree with each other, and they will never unite.
And this is interesting because this is a classic imperial strategy, not just British Empire, but the Roman Empire, right, would always keep the clans and the tribes people fighting amongst each other. So divide and conquer.
Totally. And there was like more than one berries and cream haircut in this movie. Just watch it just for that.
And one of them gets deheaded,
Yes.
and you can take the berries and cream hair home with you.
It was berries and cream in a basket. Right. The king used the princess to dupe him the first time.
Yeah, he thought he was gonna do some entrapment, some sexual entrapment by sending Sophie Marceau in there to woo and confuse and discombobulate Mel, but it didn't work. It turned out that she liked Mel Gibson. So, right, remember?
Yeah.
Didn't work. So Longshanks gets foiled at every turn, but he's very crafty.
But the nobles betray him every time, almost.
Every time.
And then
damn
I
nobles.
like the ebbs and flows of this movie because you think it might be over, but it's not over, and he has another like revenge tour
he
comeback.
gets revenge. Yeah, he does his comeback tour
Yes.
and takes out a bunch of the nobles, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
But they betray him again, and then that's the end of him. So
Well, and you get these really Christ-like images of William Wallace laid out, like a cross and undergoing a kind of a passion. So you can even see maybe Mel was toying with one day doing a kind of a Jesus passion movie, right? Because William Wallace's death is obviously Christological, which I didn't really notice that prior to this recent viewing. But this is just a classic, it's great for capturing the spirit of the Anglo-Saxon or the Scotch person, right? This is, and Scottish people are known in terms of their lineage for being, fighting people, having a fighting spirit. I mean, the descendants of people in the American South are Scotch-Irish people. So they have that fighting spirit. And it's just sad to look at the Scottish people today, the Irish people today, and even the gradual destruction and cucking of people in the American South, just how sad it's becoming and how everybody's falling not to external wars, but to psychological warfare and degeneracy. That's the sad part. So it's like you can take on anybody like a Longshanks or some giant army, but we can't beat just the most ridiculous technocratic goons.
well, you'll never beat anybody if your noble people's hearts aren't pure. So
Well, part of the point of this movie is that we don't need nobility in the sense of just having lands and titles giving you some sort of, because they keep making the point in the movie that, because remember, Robert the Bruce is jealous of Mel Gibson because people are following him because he's courageous and he inspires men. And we don't have men that are leaders that inspire people. Everybody that steps up to be a leader turns out to be some kind of goon or goblin or degenerate themselves. And they're intentionally promoted. That's part of the technocratic dictatorship. right? The technocratic dictatorship knows that you can only promote goons and goblins to be the leaders of movements because they're co-opted and they're controllable. That's exactly the strategy of Edward Longshanks in the movie when he co-opts the lords.
Right. And William is doing this for love and vengeance. So
Well, he did it for love, but he freedom.
Yeah.
He keeps saying, I'm not going to be a
So he
slave. I'm
can't
not going
be
to
bought.
be a slave. I'd rather die than be a slave.
Yeah.
And the best way to entrap people in today's society is to make them love their servitude. That's what Aldous Huxley said. So, guys, I would say you want an inspiring movie, go watch Braveheart. It is an inspiring film. And it will eventually be banned because it is a toxic masculine movie. The technocrat order will ban this movie 100%. I'm serious.
Yeah, probably.
Not probably, they will. And they will ban Apocalypto as well.
Yeah. What else? Last thing. Oh, that dirty handkerchief. I was glad to see that. It's the worst MacGuffin ever. I understand it's the wedding ring, but it was like grossing me out, man.
Wedding ring?
Well, they traded his little patch
right.
of plaid, and she gave him her handkerchief, and it was like nasty by the end of it.
Kevin Farrell, $5. Happy Cinco de Mayo. Only if it's the Virgin of Guadalupe Tonantzin ritual. I'm just joking. Travis, $5. Howdy. What's up, Travis? Gary, $100. Gary wins tonight's super chat festival by sending $100. Thank you so much. He says, I found Mel Gibson's Laker tickets and I thought it was fitting to split the profits. You found Mel Gibson's Laker tickets. Well, maybe you should give those back. Maybe Mel wants to go see the Lakers. Mad, but thank you so much for that fat super chat. Mad cyber scientist. Jay and Jamie, do you think Mel Gibson is separate from the Hollywood inner circles? Well, he seems to speak that way. Back in the late 2000s or early 2000s, he was talking that way, but I don't know. I would imagine he's not welcome. Kind of like being in the industry but not participating in it. Probably. I mean, he has his own company, so I guess he doesn't really have to be super involved in it.
Yeah, he might be untouchable by this time.
J-Hog, $1. Are we getting a VeggieTales analysis?
I don't get it.
I think it's just a joke. Vibranium, $5. Great stream tonight, Jay and Jamie. Thank you, Vibranium. Do you want to read that one?
Old drunk Spanish hooligan, $3. In Spain, we consider much of the info about the conquest a black legend and Anglo bias, including slavery. Hispanidad is often celebrated over indigenismo because the latter was co-opted by the Freemason Simon Bolivar, who balkanized a Hispanic empire.
Interesting. I don't know about that, so I'll have to look into Simon Bolivar, the Freemason who balkanized Hispanic empire. And the conquest. Yeah, I mean, I don't have some kind of like anti-Spanish bias or I don't buy into some quote Anglo narrative. So I'm not anti-Spanish or something. So, but I don't know about this. I'll have to look into Simon Bolivar. Thank you guys. A lot of fun. If you would hit like and share. Also be sure and head on over to the links to buy tickets to our live events. We also have the live event coming up with Courtney in Nashville, June 3rd and 4th. The Eventbrite tickets for that. Rebels for Cause. You can get the tickets there. It's a 2-day event, so that's why those tickets are a little more. Go. You want to put that up there?
Yeah.
See that?
All these cool people.
So get your tickets to that in the link. And also Simon Bolivar. All right. Thank you guys so much. And oh, by the way, what am I doing? You guys head on over to chalk.com. Get your chalk.com, the best supplements out there. Irish Moss right now. You can go get Irish Moss. You can get the 7 Wonders. You can get my favorite, which is the Tonkat Elite, which is proven to boost testosterone. You can get the Action 2.0, and you use the promo code J50, that's JAY50, it gets you 50% off all these awesome products that will help you when it comes to a nutrient deficient diet. Diets in the West are tremendously nutrient deficient, and that's why Chalk is there to help. My favorites, as we said, are Tonkat Ali, but also I want to let you know a little bit of information.
Well,
what were you gonna say?
Everyone's depleted on minerals, and the
Right.
Irish moss is really good for that. And if you want to be like fighting Irish and
Yeah.
William Wallace,
We have a lot of people too, that are interested in mental focus and clarity because our attention spans are shot from our phones and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you took She Legit for like a month straight, and you had a lot of great experiences with
every time I need
reading.
to read a book fast, I use She Legit.
So here's some of the points that you can benefit from She Legit. Excellent testosterone boosting and support with no negative effects. Chalk did a study on male volunteers, and it increased testosterone by 19% in just a few days, and after 90 days 24%. So She Legit also helps with boosting testosterone. It enhances mitochondrial energy production. It helps the body absorb and use CoQ10, promotes lean muscle mass, promotes circulation. It is also shown to support collagen production by activating the collagen producing genes. And so I highly recommend getting over there and trying out the She Legit if you've not tried it. But all those products are great. Use the promo code J50, that's JAY50, to get 50% off. Or use the promo code J53LIFE, that's J53LIFE, to get 53% off. And I'll remind you guys, too, to go over to Rockfin and subscribe, not just to me, but also to the best podcast out there other than us, which is, you got it, Grand Theft World with our great buddy Richard Grove. Richard's podcast has been running for many years. It's a consistent weekly offering of 7+ hours telling you everything that's going on in the geopolitical sphere. We've also got some cool stuff coming up with another sponsor, which is Scott Mannion. So check out Scott's channel. I just did an interview with Scott not too long ago, so looking forward to that. And if you type into YouTube Scott Mannion, you will find his stuff coming up. He's had Pajot on. He's had some other... I've listened to a couple of these. We're going to be doing some streams on the actual history of Albion. So if you're like me and you have a history, a background being Scottish, being English, then you're going to want to check out Scott Mannion's channel, and you're going to want to check out the interview that we do. And he's talking about history of Anglo-Saxon stuff. He's got me up there. He's got Paul Joseph Watson. He's got Pajot. I mean, a lot of great stuff over there on Scott Mannion's channel. So go subscribe to him and subscribe to Richard Grove, and check out the philosophy course that we did with Richard. We're still selling that philosophy course, and you can get that at all times